Right. So let's start with question number 7. So it says here that it's actually referring to question number 6. You have two vectors of magnitude 10 each, and the angle between them is 60 degrees. So what is the angle made by the resultant vector with respect to the first one? Okay. So it's like this, that magnitude of vector A is equal to magnitude of vector B, which is equal to 10 units, and the angle theta between them is equal to 60 degrees. So this is already information in the 6th question. Now in the 7th one is asking to find the angle made by the resultant of A and B, that is A plus B, with respect to the vector E, with respect to the first one. That is what the question is asking. Okay, so you can do this by both the methods, formula based method or by making use of triangle law. So you know that resultant का मतलब क्या होता है, sum होता है. So when it says that the angle made by the resultant, this only is the resultant of the two vectors. Okay, this is resultant of vectors A and B. So one is you can use the formula based method. So formula method mein you know that the angle they are talking about is alpha. So tan alpha is given by the formula B sin theta upon A plus B cos theta. So just substitute the values here. So here A is equal to B is equal to 10 and theta is equal to 60 degrees. So this will become 10 into root 3 by 2 in the numerator divided by 10 plus 10 into half in the denominator. So you can take 10 common and cancel that. Root 3 by 2 divided by 1 plus half. So that is root 3 by 2 divided by 3 by 2. So further do some simplification and this will come out to be 1 by root 3. So this is telling that tan alpha is 1 by root 3, or that's the same thing as saying that alpha is tan inverse of 1 by root 3, which you know is 30 degrees. So alpha is 30 degrees, or you can also call it pi by 6 radians. Both answers are equally valid. So this is the formula based method of doing the question. Okay, now I'll also show you the geometry based method, which is equally easy here. You should know it by all different types of methods for your convenience. Right, Hitanshu, I'll come to the 8th question after finishing this. Okay, so any doubt in this method, people? Is this clear? Okay, good. Then alternately, we can do one more thing. We can just solve this by geometry method also. So if we go by geometrically, we can see that magnitude of A is equal to magnitude of B is 10 and theta is equal to 60 degrees. So when we draw the vector triangle for the sum of A and B, the triangle will look something like this. This and this is 10 and this is 10. Now this is very simple. Yeah, we can use parallelogram law also, but we haven't studied parallelogram law yet. So I'll discuss that at a later stage. So A plus B here. Now notice that this is which type of triangle? This is an isosceles triangle. You can always make use of this, that this side is equal to this side. That means this angle is actually equal to this angle. And then further you can make use of the fact that the sum of the interior angles, that is alpha plus alpha, is equal to the opposite exterior angle 60 degrees. This is giving a very simple solution that alpha is 30 degrees. So you can take advantage of the fact that because mod A is equal to mod B, this is what is happening. You're getting an isosceles triangle and I'm making use of the property of isosceles triangle. You can see it's an even easier method of finding that angle by the geometrical key. Yes, Because it's an isosceles triangle, so it's coming out to be an easy method. So that is a matter of practice. The more number of questions we do and the more we try out all the different methods, then after a time we'll get used to it and we'll understand, okay, in a particular type of question, geometry might be faster. In a particular type of question, the formula method might be faster. And later we'll see there's something called component algebra. So in certain questions, component algebra might be faster. So that is all a matter of practice. But right now, since you're learning the basics of vectors, what you do is you try to solve by all possible methods. जितने आपके दिमाग में method आते हैं, आप सब try करके देखिए. Don't stick to just one method. Yeah, component algebra we will discuss later. It's another way of expressing vectors. Yes, you need to know all possible methods. That's what I just said. जितने methods आपने सीखे हैं, सबसे आप questions solve करना सीखो और सबसे आप solve करना try करो when you are doing the assignments at home. Then with practice, what will happen? You will realize at exam level which method is appropriate for which question. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Right, so this is done. Now, next, Itanshu, I think you had a doubt in question number 8, so let me discuss. So you directly use the formula of vector addition, the triangle law formula in question number 8. Okay. So question 8, इसमें भी आप देखो triangle से भी कर सकते हो. Need not use formula only and show you both the methods. So mod A is equal to mod B again, isn't it? Okay. And the angle between them is 120 degrees. So now we have to find the relationship between mod A plus B is some n times mod A. We have to find how much this n is, I suppose. It could be root 3, it could 2, all these things according to the options. So let's start from here. So mod A is equal to mod B is suppose some value small a, suppose. Right? Let's assume this because they are equal, so they're both having the same value. So I'm just taking that value as this. Okay. So then, and theta is equal to 120. This information is given to me additionally. So now from this, what will be mod A plus B by formula method? It will be root of A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. So यहाँ पे substitute कर दो that mod A is equal to mod B is equal to small a and theta is 120. So this is becoming root of A square plus 2A square cos 120 degrees. Okay. Now you need to pay attention to that second quadrant formula. So keep note of the fact that cos 120 will be given by the formula which I have taught you minus cos of 180 minus 120 degrees. So it will be minus cos 60, or in other words, it will be minus half. So this needs to be substituted again. Cos theta is minus half. So now you can see with that substitution, mod of A plus B is becoming square root of 2A square plus 2A square into minus half. So that is becoming A square inside the square root. So again, magnitude of A plus B is becoming A, which by the way is equal to magnitude of A. So therefore here what is happening? Magnitude of A plus B happens to be 1 times magnitude of B. So the way I had expressed it earlier, in that the value of n should be 1. So this is the simple formula based method of doing this question. Okay, so Hitanshu, hope this is clear to you. Now, those of you who got this by this method, try it by the geometry method also. That's fine. You did not try, that's okay, but you can now try by the geometry method. So just try to figure this question out again by the geometry method also. It's very easy. It's incredibly easy. So if you are solving this by the geometrical method, see here that your vector triangle will look like this. This is the vector A. The vector B will be somewhere here, because it's making an angle of 120. So whatever is the magnitude of A, same is the magnitude of B. You understood that? And plus now this exterior angle, theta is equal to 120 degrees. So this time, when you draw the resultant sum, is this one over here. And you'll realize that real resultant sum is again having the property that because these two sides are equal, so these two angles are equal. And this time 2 alpha is equal to 120 degrees. So that means alpha is equal to 60 degrees. Now the moment you know that two angles are 60, you know it's an equilateral triangle. Okay. So immediately you realize that okay, the third side, which is mod A plus B, is equal to the other two sides. It's equal to A. So that's it. So as I told you, this is also an incredibly easy way of solving the question. Alright people, so this is done. Then next up, I think some of you had doubt in the 9th question. Yeah, Diti, Yash, you had questions in the 9th and 10th. Okay, so next up, go through the 9th and 10th question. I'll discuss that very soon. Yeah, just draw the triangle. I'm sure you understand the geometrical method. यही information यहाँ पे use किया triangle में बेटा. That magnitude of A and B are same and the angle outside is 120. ना theta is given as 120. So now you can see it's becoming an equilateral triangle because this alpha is becoming 60 degrees. So it's becoming that special case. Not only is isosceles, but this time the third angle is also the same. Alright, do the 9th question. Now the hint to use in 9th question, again you substitute in the formula. Cos 45 का value substitute कर दो 1 by root 2. But now the only difference is आपको value नहीं पूछा है, आपको value compare करने बोला है. So you have to solve an inequality. So you calculate how much the value is and then you compare it with what it's being asked to compare. So you will be able to tell whether it is greater than or less than the quantity given in the options. Okay, so understood what I'm saying. In 9th question, you just substitute in the formula of triangle law. The value of theta is 45 degrees. So cos theta is becoming 1 by root 2. And then we calculate the value that you're getting for mod A plus B and see how it compares with the quantities given in the options. Whether it is greater than or less than. And from that, you check out which option is correct. Okay, so hope you got the ninth question. Yeah, you have to put it by, check the value by putting the angle theta as 45 in the given formula. So the ninth one, you have to just compare mod of a plus b plus with mod a plus mod b. So individually the magnitudes could be anything. In this question, they're not given as equal quantities or they're not given as 10 or anything like that. They could be anything, but you have to compare it with the sum of their magnitudes. So you can see question 9, theta is equal to 45 degrees between two vectors A and B. So now we want to compare the quantity mod A plus B with the quantity mod A plus mod B. Okay. So in simpler terms, we can say that if you just take mod A with capital A and mod B as capital B, you want to basically compare magnitude of A plus B and the quantity capital A plus capital B, the sum of their magnitudes. Now, what is magnitude of A plus B? In this case, it is root of A square plus B square plus 2AB cos of theta, where it's given to us that theta is 45. So in this particular case, mod A plus B kitna ban ja raha hai? It is becoming root of A square plus B square plus 2AB into 1 by root 2. Or you can write that as root of A square plus B square plus root 2 times AB. Or you can even further approximate that as A square plus B square plus 1.4 times AB. Approximately like that. Okay. So this is what is mod of A plus B. So now when you want to compare this mod of A plus B, which is this value, with this value, okay. So you can see that in the comparison, the right hand side quantity, which is A plus B, it can also be written as square root of A plus B whole square. So that is square root of A square plus B square plus 2AB. So now you see what is happening. Your left hand side is this quantity, root of A square plus B square plus 1.4 AB or root 2 AB. Whereas your right hand side is this quantity. It is square root of A square plus B square plus 2AB. So obviously you can see which one is larger. The right hand side is greater. So LHS is less than RHS. That becomes your answer. So this is like, that indirect type of question. वैल्यू नहीं निकाल सकते because A और B के values नहीं पता मुझे, magnitudes नहीं पता, but मैं compare कर सकता हूँ. Okay, so Yash, hope you understood this, and Diti also. Okay, next up, question number 10. Number of you have asked it, so 3 or 4 people have asked. So let me. Okay, let's come to question 10 next. If you finished with this. So 10 में क्या हो रहा है? Resultant of two vectors is perpendicular to A and has a magnitude equal to double of A. Then what is the ratio of A and B? Okay. So this question is definitely going to be easier if I use the geometry. How I know it's going to be easier if I use geometry? Because see, it's given to you that one of the vectors, the resultant is perpendicular to the other one. So if I'm going to draw a vector triangle, it's going to be which type of triangle? It's going to be a right angle triangle. Now you know a right angle triangle is always easy to handle. So on reading the question, you should kind of make a guess that okay, geometry is going to be the easy method over here. Okay. But anyway, I'll show it by both methods. Okay, so what is given to us that the resultant of two vectors, that is A plus B, is such that it is perpendicular to E, okay, and also it has a magnitude, that is mod of A plus B is equal to double of the magnitude of E. This is the information that is given. So now from this we have to find the ratio of magnitude of E is to magnitude of B. So you'll realize very easily that if you use this information, your vector triangle is something like this. Your vector A agar aisa hai, of some unknown magnitude, the vector resultant of A and B has to be perpendicular to this. It has to be like this, and it has to be longer in length. It has to be in fact precisely double the length. So मेरा जो A plus B है, as a vector, that has to be twice the magnitude of E in comparison. And it has to be at alpha equal to 90 degrees. And the other thing is then therefore B over here is this vector. So B will be this vector. And just yes, correct. Very good. You just use Pythagoras theorem. Correct. Okay. So you want to find A is to B. So you just use the fact that B is equal to square root of perpendicular square plus base square. So that is root 5. So then you can see that A is to B is 1 is to root 5. Or in more proper language, magnitude of the vector E, its ratio with the magnitude of the vector B is becoming 1 is to square root of 5. That becomes your answer. Simple. Now see the same question if I want to do by formula based method, how I do. Formula based method. अरे right angle triangle है ना बेटा, it's given to you. ये angle 90 दिया हुआ है ना. It is given that this is perpendicular, so it has to be the hypotenuse. This one is perpendicular. Na? This vector and this vector are perpendicular. So that is why here this angle is 90 degrees. So this has to be the hypotenuse. Understood, na beta? Okay, now coming to the formula based method, it is given that magnitude of A plus B is equal to twice of E. That's one thing that is given. So substitute in the formula. Root of A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta is equal to 2A. Or you can square both sides and you can say that okay, A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta is 4A square, squaring both the sides. Or that B square plus 2AB cos theta is equal to 3A square. This is, let's say, equation 1. This is coming from the first information. Okay, that is given. Now, secondly, it is also given that A plus B is perpendicular to E. That's also given to us. So this will also generate an equation. And this will tell us that alpha is equal to 90 degrees. That means tan alpha is undefined. It's like that. So tan alpha by the formula is how much? It is B sin theta upon A plus B cos theta. So this thing should be tan 90. So this should be the undefined quantity. Actually, infinity is not the correct term for it. It is undefined. So when is a quantity mathematically undefined? This is my second equation. Now, what this indicates is that because it's undefined, the denominator of the left hand side that should be equal to 0. Only that way it can be an undefined quantity. Okay? Or you just understand this way now, that tan 90 degrees is sine 90 divided by cos 90. So it is 1 by 0, and that is why it is undefined, because the denominator is 0. That's the concept to understand over here. So the denominator on the left hand side has to be 0. So that means a plus b cos theta has to be 0, or b cos theta has to be minus a. So this is coming from equation 2. Now you substitute this information in equation 1, and immediately you will get the relationship. Substitute this here. So we get that b square plus 2a into b cos theta, which is minus a square, minus a, is becoming 3a square. So now you can see that b square is becoming 5a square. So that will tell you that the magnitude of the vector b is root 5 times the magnitude of the vector. So ये थोड़ा complicated हो जाता है ना, when we substitute in the formula, unnecessarily it looks a little untidy and complicated like this, but there's no reason why we can't solve by this method. Can solve, only it's much easier to solve by the geometry of the triangle. Why? Because it's a right angle triangle. Okay, so hope this is clear. Now next we move on to the 12th question. Oh, 11th also. Okay, 11th and 12th both we do. So we'll complete all the questions now. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So go through the 11th question next. So 11th में the information given to us. Yeah, that's correct, H. Okay. But let's also finish 11 on the way before we come to 12. ये information दिया हुआ है, and also is given that theta is obtuse. Okay. Or in other words, theta must be greater than 90 but less than equal to 180 degrees. Okay. So what does that mean? That basically now implies, this thing implies that cos theta will be a negative quantity. Okay. So therefore magnitude of a plus b, which will be equal to root of a square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta, will be equal to square root of 12 square plus 16 square plus 2 into 12 into 16 जो भी है ये, but into a negative quantity. This will be a negative value. Okay. So definitely you can see that it will be square root of 400 minus something. We don't know the value here, but it's definitely negative. So you can see that mod of a plus b. So that now implies that magnitude of a plus b will be less than root 400, or it will be less than 220. It's less than 20 because cos theta is negative. Okay. So that's the important thing here, that because cos theta is negative, so this whole quantity here, this whole quantity is becoming a negative quantity. It's becoming a negative quantity. assuming this negative quantity. So the quantity inside the square root now is less than 400. Yes, very good. You can do this by geometry. Very interesting way of approaching the problem. You can do it that way also. So can you give me some hint how I'll approach this by geometry? मैं कैसे प्रूव कर सकता हूँ ज्योमेट्री से कि वो 20 से कम ही होगा? Yeah, I know it's little difficult to explain, but take your time. Correct. Yes, we have to join them head to tail. That's true. Then 45 not so much. Yeah, you have to basically draw the figure. So I'll draw the figure and you can explain. Okay. So what I would do in this case, if I want to show this geometrically, I will actually compare two cases. Okay. Let's say that I've been given the information. Yeah, but I got your idea. I'll explain how to show it, and then you'll understand. When you just draw the figure, you'll understand. So magnitude of A 12 है, magnitude of B 16 है. Now compare two situations. One where theta is exactly equal to 90 degrees, and the other where theta is greater than 90, or it is obtuse. कितना है मुझे नहीं पता, whether it's 120, 150, whatever it is. It's 90 plus something. So in this diagram, how will the vector triangle look like? It will look like this, 12 like this, 16 perpendicular to it. So this is the vector E, this is of magnitude 12, this is the vector V. So magnitude 16, but in this case, if they were perpendicular to each other, theta is equal to 90 degrees, then how much the resultant would have been over here? The resultant would have been 20, Pythagoras theorem. So इस case में resultant कितना होता? It would have been exactly of magnitude 20. Correct. Now compare this with this case, because it's actually not 90. This is just to help you understand. So compare it with this case where it is now greater than 90. So greater than 90 में क्या हो रहा है? ये B ऐसा चला जा रहा है. Going somewhere here. So you can see that theta is now greater than 90. Theta is, but this is still 16 in magnitude. This is still 12 in magnitude. So you'll see that if you compare this triangle with this one, ये side थोड़ा compress हो गया है. Can you see that in the diagrams? This side, you can just geometrically you can estimate that this side has got compressed a little. This has become now less than 20. So in other words, इसमें अगर मैं इसको ऐसा modify कर देता हूँ, if I just make this like this, if I just rotate this side by a little bit of an angle like this, then what will happen? This will get compressed like this. You can see in the diagram that the resultant will get compressed. In comparison, you can see that now this side will have to be less than 20. Now this side will have to be less than 20. If it is obtuse, if theta is obtuse. So that's why you can see that whenever theta is obtuse, the resultant will have to have a magnitude which is less than 20. Because when it was this, the resultant was equal to 20. So 20 से कम हो जाएगा. So this is a more interesting way of approaching the question, but you might struggle to actually prove it. It's just something you can see visually. Where's the proper proof? That's okay, Tej. I understood you got the same diagram. So anyhow, that was question number 11. Now let's move on to 12. Okay. So 12 we have to just connect two types of vector operations. One we had seen the first vector operation हमने क्या पढ़ा था? Multiply a vector with a number. Yeah, this was 11 beta. This was a geometrical approach of question number 11. Now let's come to 12 next. So it is given to us that vector A is perpendicular to B. And it's also given to us that we have another vector C, which is given by the equation minus 2B. So then we have to find what kind of relationship A and B have, or A and C have. So let's just try to draw the diagram. So suppose we draw any arbitrary vector E. Just happens to be a vector like this, suppose E. So magnitude कितना है मुझे नहीं पता, but it's just something. Okay. Now B has to be perpendicular to this. So let me just assume that B is a vector which is like this, in this sort of direction. Let me draw it smaller. So B is a vector like this which is at 90 degrees to it. Now what does this statement mean? Remember what this statement means. It implies that C is opposite to B in direction, because you're multiplying with a negative quantity. And of course it also implies that magnitude of C is double of magnitude of B. So because when you take mod, that minus sign will go. So in the same diagram, if I now attempt to draw C, okay, so C will be a vector like this. Be exactly opposite to B in direction. So this angle should be 180, should be exactly opposite. And its magnitude should become 2B, but its direction should become opposite. So now you can see automatically what is happening. This angle is becoming 90. So you can see that what is happening here, the relationship between A and C is that they are perpendicular. Okay. The relationship between B and C is that they are what we call anti-parallel. They are called anti-parallel or opposite. Okay. So because vectors are arrows which have directions, so we have two situations. Two vectors can be parallel, that would be this situation, and two vectors can be anti-parallel, that would be this kind of situation. This is anti-parallel vectors, and this one above is parallel vector. So you can see the relationship between B and C is that they are anti-parallel. Right, so that's correct, Tej. Okay, question 13, if I remember correctly, there might be a correction in the answer key. There's a mistake in the answer key. Yeah, if it is doubt with just the answer because you're not getting the correct answer, it's because there's a misprint in the worksheet. I have to make a correction in it. Okay. Anyhow, I'll explain it to you. So finish this and move on to question number 13. Go through question 13, I'll explain. Okay. So what is the answer you people are getting? Has anybody got the answer for 13? Not getting the correct answer according to the answer key, but what is the answer you are getting? Yes, that's correct. Hitanshu, your answer is correct. Let me explain to everybody. Okay, so it is given to us that magnitude of the forces F1, F2 and F3 are this much each. Okay, and it's also given that their vector sum is equal to 0. what we can conclude from this statement? So now from this we have to find the angle between F2 and F3. Yeah, of course we can conclude that the resultant of the 3 is 0. That means if the three forces are acting simultaneously on a body, that body will be in equilibrium because net force will be 0. But also another way to interpret this question, especially because you are asked the angle between F2 and F3, ये पूछा गया है. So you interpret the question this way, that we can say that F1 is negative of F2 plus F3. This would be an accurate statement. After 12th question, beta, this is what we are doing. In between the 12th question, this last one that I did, I have not taught anything else. In any case, I'll send you the recording today, so don't worry. Okay. So anyway, so coming back to this 13th question, from this which is given to us that vector sum of F1, F2 and F3 is 0, this conclusion is correct. Therefore, we can say that F1 is negative of the sum of F2 and F3. So further what we can say is that the magnitude of F1 will become the magnitude of F2 plus F3, because when we take mod on both sides, the minus sign will not matter. You can say this. Okay. So now see, plug in these things. These values are given to us and assume the angle between these two is theta. Suppose that is some theta. So F2 and F3 are at an angle of theta. So यहाँ पे ये कितना हो जाना चाहिए? F1 का जो भी magnitude है, it should be equal to root of F2 square plus F3 square plus 2F2 F3 cos theta, where theta specifically is the angle between which vectors? It is the angle between F2 and F3, between these two vectors, because here we are adding these two. So now plug in the values that are given above. So F1's magnitude was given as 100, F2's magnitude was given as 80, F3's magnitude was given as 60. So we get this. So now if you just check this out, you will see that this is 100 is equal to square root of 10 raised power 4 हो जाएगा. The 80 square plus 60 square is equal to 64 plus 36 into 100. So that's 10 raised power 4 plus 9600 cos theta. But more importantly, the moment you see this, you can square both sides and see that 10 raised power 4 is equal to 10 raised power 4 plus whatever this 9600 doesn't matter, because this term will become 0. So that implies that cos theta is 0, which can only mean one thing, that theta is 90 degrees. Okay. So make a correction in the options, please, people. This is, I'll tell you where the mistake actually happened from. The misprint was not with the options. The misprint was in the question. I'll show it to you in just a moment. But okay. Now this you understood. Now let me ask in the same question a different thing. Now suppose I asked in the question, from this data, now I ask you to find the angle between F1 and F2. Instead of F2 and F3, I ask you to find the angle between F1 and F2. Now think how you will adapt this solution. जैसे मैंने F2 और F3 के बीच निकाला है, how will I adapt that? How will I modify that solution so that I can get the angle between F1 and F2? Just try this out with me. think again beta, you will get cos theta as a negative quantity. So आपका 37 नहीं हो सकता है. It will be the supplement of 37 actually. Yes, Yancy, you can do that way also. That's correct. Okay, so let me explain. If you know Lami's theorem, you can use that also. But again, like we will study Lami's theorem a little bit later. So don't worry. So in this same question, if I wanted to say that I want to find the angle between F1 and F2 instead. So I'd say that F1 plus F2 plus F3 is equal to 0. This now I'll imply it as F1 plus F2 is equal to minus of F3. So yeah, I'll explain. So mod of F1 plus F2 is equal to mod of F3. So if the angle between them, if this angle is, let's say, some theta prime, so then square root of F1 square plus F2 square plus 2F1 F2 cos of theta prime, that angle between these two, that is equal to F3's magnitude. So now substitute the values. So remember F1 and F2 were 180 respectively. So 100 square plus 80 square plus 2 into 100 into 80 into cos of theta prime. On the other side come as 60. Now square both the sides. So 10 raised power 4 plus 6400 plus कितना आ जाएगा 16,000 cos theta is equal to 3600. So we can take some terms common and all that. So we'll get 100 plus 64 plus 160 cos theta is equal to 36. So anyhow, doing all this calculation, we'll get cos theta as when you do this calculation fully, कितना हो जाएगा देखो. Further you can cancel some stuff now. 4 से divide कर दो suppose, so 25 plus 16 plus 40 cos theta is equal to 9. So 40 cos theta is becoming 25 plus 16 minus 9 का negative. So that's becoming how much? So 25 minus 9 will give you 16. Is this calculation correct so far? Yeah. Okay. It's correct so far. 40. So this will cos theta will come out to be minus of which one I forgot बेटा. नहीं माइनस वो तो स्क्वायर हो जा रहा है ना बेटा, वो तो स्क्वायर हो जा रहा है. So that's fine. It's coming minus 4 by 5, is it? Is it coming this? Okay. So you are getting cos theta minus 4/5. So from this we can now get. You should be getting, just do this calculation. You should be getting this. Alright, now cos theta is minus 4/5. So that means theta is an obtuse angle. Alright. So theta is an obtuse angle. So you can see that cos of 37 degrees is 4/5. Therefore, cos of 180 minus 37 will be minus 4/5. Okay. Or cos of 143 degrees is minus 4/5. So cos theta is equal to minus 4/5 implies that theta is equal to 143. Only here it was theta prime. Okay, we should have taken this because theta was the angle between the other two. हाँ, Pythagorean triplet है मतलब एक angle तो 90 हो गए. That's also one way of understanding it. Okay. Yeah. So the correct answer, the way the question is given, F2 or F3 के बीच angle निकालना है. So that is 90. But I'm saying to that, if you add another question that okay, now find the angle between F1 and F2, that will become how much? 143 degrees. So let's understand another way why this is happening. See, let's think of this geometrically now. Okay. F1 plus F2 plus F3 is equal to 0, and their magnitudes are 100, 80, and 60. Okay, so now you see one thing from here. It is minus of F2 plus F3. So let's think of this like a vector triangle now. So if this is the vector F2, whose magnitude was 80, and let's just assume arbitrarily, because angle मुझे as of now नहीं पता. I've solved it earlier and seen that okay, that's 90 degrees, but it's as of now I don't know that in this. So I'm just assuming some arbitrary angle, okay, and I'm drawing F3. What I know as per the question is that the magnitude of F3 is 60 newtons. So it's something smaller, and I don't know this angle. कितना है मुझे नहीं पता. This is F3. So now what should F1 be? F1 should be minus of F2 plus F3. So F2 plus F3 कौन सा vector है? Is this one going from here to here? So F3 should be negative of that. Na? So it will be which one? It will be this one. This is negative of the resultant. This vector F3. This is negative of F1 plus F2. Because logically, what would be F1 plus F2? F1 plus F2 would have been this vector. Would have been this vector. So वो उसका equal and opposite हो जाएगा. This is this would have been the vector F1 plus F2. Now this is given to us as 100. So now notice that since 100 square is equal to 80 square plus 60 square, so immediately you can see that theta is equal to 90 degrees. So make a correction, this triangle is more properly, this triangle is like this now. If I draw this triangle more exactly, this triangle should be something like this. So your answer for the question is already done. The angle between F2 and F3 is 90 degrees. But also to give the additional answer that which I had asked you, what is the angle between F1 and F2? So I also want to answer that question now. So you can see here, F1 is this vector. Okay. F1 is this vector which is of magnitude 100. So now which angle will be theta prime in my diagram? The angle between F1 and F2. That will be this angle. This is my theta prime. Because this dotted line is the direction of F1 and this is the line, this line is the direction of F2. Whereas this angle is the angle between F2 and F3. So you can see theta prime, we can now calculate this way. Take this interior angle as something else, take it as beta or something. So from the triangle you can see that beta is tan inverse of 60 by 80 or 3 by 4. So that means beta is how much? 37 degrees. So therefore, naturally now what is my theta prime? It's 180 minus beta. So it is 143 degrees, which is what we had got by the formula method above. So that's how we can see geometrically the angle between F1 and F2. This one is 143 degrees, whereas the angle between these two, this one is 90 degrees. Okay, and likewise you can also figure out now the angle between these two. E angle, okay, I write it as theta double prime or something. This will become 127 degrees because this angle inside here, this will be 53 degrees. This angle was 37 degrees. So now you got the angles between all pairs. The angle between F1 and F2 is 143. F2 and F3 is 90. Vedant, you can just refresh your connection once. Just refresh your connection once, Vedant. Alright, so anyhow, so this is clear now. So yeah, that's fine. Because all of you are clear with this question. Not only the 90-degree angle, but the additional part also. If I ask you the angles between F1 and F2 and F3 and F1, they would have been like this. Yeah. Anyway, so that was question number 13, right? Or was it 12? Give me a second, guys. Let's come to the next question. Yeah, so that was question 13. Now let's come to 14. Go through question 14. Okay, so question 14 में you are given these two vectors P and Q. One is 10 newtons towards the negative x-axis or towards the west, and the other one is like this at 30 degrees. Now we have to find the magnitude of P so that the resultant of the two is towards the north. Okay, so let me explain the question again. So first of all, suppose these are my geographical directions. I've drawn my xy axis, suppose, so that my positive x direction is the direction towards east, and my positive y direction is the direction towards north. So now what is the information that I am given in the question? That I have some vector P which is, I don't know its magnitude, but I know its direction is 30 degrees east of north. So this angle is 30 degrees. Its magnitude is unknown. Whereas I have another vector, let's say Q, or any other name you can give it, that's fine. But that is pointing in which direction? It's pointing towards west. And additionally its magnitude is also known. Its magnitude is 10. It's pointing towards west and its magnitude is 10. So we have to now find the magnitude of that first vector P such that the resultant of P and Q is pointing in which direction? In the north direction. Okay, so the resultant of P and Q that is P plus Q is towards north. So how we do this? How we find the magnitude of P so that this happens? Just use the vector triangle. Convert this into an addition triangle. Vector addition triangle. So P plus Q हम कैसे करेंगे? How to show the operation P plus Q? First draw the vector P from our origin only, which is already drawn over there. So the vector P was like this. It was of unknown magnitude, but making an angle 30 degrees with the north or with this direction. This was 30 degrees. Now इस पे हम add करेंगे the vector Q. So whenever we add vectors, remember they are joined head to tail. So it will become like this. So my vector Q is, let's say, something like this. The vector Q is 10 newtons, but more importantly, it is pointing in which direction? It's pointing towards west. Whereas this direction here, this is the north direction. So now my condition is that the resultant of P and Q should point towards north. So that will happen in which situation? What is the resultant of P and Q in this diagram? It is the vector from the origin of P to the head of Q. So that vector should be exactly here. It should not be like this, it should not be like this. It should be exactly at 90 degrees to Q. So that is pointing like this. This should be P plus Q. That is the condition for P plus Q to be towards north. P plus Q is towards north. So that means it is perpendicular to Q. So that means this angle should be 90. So that's it. Now it's easy. This angle is 30 and this is 90. So you can just use trigonometry over here. So you can see the relationship between this and this will be sine 30 will be the perpendicular, which is 10 newtons, divided by the hypotenuse, which is the unknown magnitude P. So P is becoming how much? P is becoming 20 newtons. So convert this diagram given earlier into a vector summation diagram. That's the very important step. Right, so the given diagram of the vectors P and Q, that you convert into a diagram where you're adding the vectors P and Q. So in vectors को फिर से आप ऐसे draw करो that they are drawn head to tail. Now here they are drawn from common origin, but now draw them again head to tail. That is because in the answer they have asked you for the magnitude of P plus Q. In the question they have asked you what is the magnitude of P plus Q now. So that you can see will be 10 root 3. Because that's this side. Once you got that P's magnitude is 20, you'll realize that P plus Q कितना हो जाएगा? Magnitude of P plus Q will be that hypotenuse, I mean that base, so it's 20 square minus 10 square. No, but option A is 10 by root 3 and option D is 10 root 3. Okay, Tej, if you look carefully, option A is 10 divided by root 3 and option D is 10 into root 3. And also what the question is asking is the resultant force. So this is the resultant force in magnitude. This one is the magnitude of the resultant of Pn. Yeah, this that question is just you'll find it in the recording data beta. 13 sum you can go through the recording data. Again, you have to just use trigonometry of that right angle triangle. Yes, Diti. Okay, so hope this is clear, people. Yeah, 15 sum I'll explain it. 15 sum thoda sa technical question hai, in the sense that it's technical in how we will use vector algebra. Okay, so just go through the 15 question, I'll explain. I'll explain what is inverse coming. Don't worry. Okay, so what does this inverse thing mean? Let's understand this. And just give me a fresh connection. Okay, so it's fine now. Right, so let's understand the concept of inverse. Inverse function का मतलब क्या होता है? Before we get into the full details of question 15, let's understand the meaning of this term. That if I say theta is equal to tan inverse of some value x, what this means is that tan theta is equal to x. This is what it means. Okay, so this statement implies this statement. Understanding the point? So, for example, if I say that alpha is equal to tan inverse of 1, this is read as tan inverse. Okay. So this statement implies that tan alpha is equal to 1, or that further implies that alpha is equal to 45 degrees. No, that is reciprocal. Okay, so that's a different thing. Okay, that would be like this. That would be tan x to the power minus 1. This would be 1 by tan x. Okay. So this is not inverse. Okay. This is tan x to the power minus 1. So this and this are different things. This is a little confusing, but they are actually different things. So this you will study in trigonometry in maths also. These are called inverse trigonometric functions. You will study something in maths called inverse trigonometric functions. Okay. So it's not just to do with tan, it's something like this also. Sine or cos का भी होता है. Sine inverse of, let us say, 0.5. We want to calculate how much that is. So we'll say that if theta is equal to sine inverse of 0.5, it means that sine theta is equal to 0.5. So that means theta is equal to 30 degrees. Okay. Or if I say beta is equal to cos inverse of root 3 by 2, it means that cos beta is equal to root 3 by 2. So it means that beta is equal to 30 degrees again. Okay. Or if I say that, let's say some alpha is tan inverse 4 by 3, it means that tan alpha is 4 by 3, which you know is the case for which angle? 53 degrees. So this is the meaning of inverse trigonometric functions. Inverse trigonometric functions is part of a larger topic in maths which you will study, but apne ko we just need to understand this thing right now. Just need to understand this meaning of it, that if something is tan inverse of x, then x becomes tan of that angle. So that's the meaning we need to understand, that if theta is equal to tan inverse of some value, whatever this x is, it means that tan of theta is nothing but that value. Okay. So now with this meaning, let's understand question number 15. So question 15 is telling us just a moment, guys. So question 15 is telling us that two forces P and Q, their magnitudes are in the ratio 1:2. Okay. So magnitude, so forces P and Q are such that their magnitudes are in the ratio 1:2. Okay, and the angle between them What is that given? And the resultant is at an angle of tan inverse root 3 by 2 with respect to P. So, and the resultant makes an angle of tan inverse of root 3 by 2 with respect to P. So let's understand what the meaning of this statement is. Okay. The meaning of this statement is that if I denote the resultant as the vector R, okay, that means the vector R makes an angle, let's say alpha, with respect to the vector P, such that alpha is given by the value tan inverse root 3 by 2. Or in other words, that means that tan alpha is how much? It is root 3 by 2. Now you understood now how we'll interpret the question. So we know the formula for tan alpha. Now we'll use this. This is the meaning of this. So in other words, let's also understand this geometrically or diagram wise. Suppose P कोई भी vector है ऐसा. P is the force vector like this, and Q is some vector like this. So the resultant of P and Q, when I draw them head to tail, is this one. So if this is the resultant of P and Q, then whatever angle this is making with this angle is alpha. So this angle alpha is now given by this information. So that's one thing that is given, and the other thing that is given is that whatever the magnitude of P and Q, they are in the ratio 1:2. That means P's magnitude is twice of the magnitude of Q. So this is P. This Q will become P by 2, or P is twice of Q. So now use the formula of triangle law to solve further. Just try it by this method. Just try it now. So when you substitute in the formula also, there's one added complication, but I want you to first substitute yourself so that you reach that step. Yeah, Hitanshu, that's part of the learning. Okay. There are not too many things more than this in terms of formulae and vectors. But the thing is, we have to spend a lot of time in learning how to apply them in different situations. So quite a lot of our time will go in problem solving. Okay. So now see, apply the formula over here. So formula kya hai that tan alpha will become q sin theta upon p plus q cos theta. Okay. So tan alpha is how much? Root 3 by 2, and this will be q sin theta upon p, which we can write as 2q plus q cos theta. So this gives us one formula that root 3 by 2 is equal to sin theta upon 2 plus cos theta. Understand? So from this we will now get the value of theta. So this is how we are making use of the triangle law formula. Now the question is, how do we solve this for theta? Because there is both cos theta and sin theta. So for that we use a math trick. The math trick that we use is that whenever we have an equation with sin theta and cos theta, okay, use the relation sin square theta is 1 minus cos square theta, or vice versa. Cos square theta is 1 minus sin square theta. So make use of this. Okay. So let's see how we can do that over here. So cross multiply both sides. So that is giving us that root 3 times 2 plus cos theta is equal to 2 sin theta. Now next what you do is you square both sides of the equation so that you can make use of this. So square the left hand side and equate it with the square of the right hand side, and then use this relation over the right hand side. So you'll get 3 times 2 plus cos theta ka whole square is 4 sin square theta. Now put this over here. So this will become 3 into 4 plus cos square theta plus 4 cos theta is equal to 4 into 1 minus cos square theta. So ये quadratic equation बन गया cos theta में, so we can solve it easily now. So 12 plus 4 cos square theta, sorry, plus 3 cos square theta, my mistake. So 12 plus 3 cos square theta plus 12 cos theta is equal to 4 minus 4 cos square theta. So bring these terms this side. So we have 7 cos square theta, okay, plus 12 cos theta plus 8 is equal to 0. So we have cos theta is equal to minus 12 plus minus 144 minus 56 into 4. So कितना हो जाएगा? $224. Just a minute. Just check the solution. So this term is correct. So P was 2Q only, no? Oh, sorry, wait. I made a mistake here. P is not 2Q. This has to be corrected, people. Okay. P is 2Q is 1 is to 2. No? So Q is the one which is 2P. So just make a correction here. This will not be this. Okay. All right. So we'll just redo this from here. Just redo this. Just make a note up to this step, then I'll come back to this. So you people clear up to this? So just redo these steps. You're getting some strange values because of that mistake. So as I told you, this is a lengthy question because there's a solution of a trigonometric equation. So ultimately, those type of questions always involve a bit of calculation. Just give me a second, guys. Yeah, so let's redo the steps from here. So tell me when you are all clear up to this step, up to this point here, when you are all clear with this. Right, so clear? Okay. So now the difficult part starts, solving this equation. Okay. So now in this you're putting Q as 2P. So 2P sine theta upon P plus 2P cos theta. So further cancelling the 2 become 2 sine theta upon 1 plus 2 cos theta. So that thing here is equal to root 3 by 2. So now the point is, how do we solve an equation like this? जिसमें sin theta term भी है और cos theta term भी है. So that is where this method comes in. This math tricks comes in. The math trick is that anything where we have sin theta and cos theta, we make use of this identity. That sin square theta is equal to, or sin square theta plus cos square theta is equal to unity. So now those steps will begin. That square both the sides of the equation, and then substitute sin square theta as 1 minus cos square theta and solve it as a quadratic equation in theta or in cos theta. So left hand side whole square is equal to right hand side whole square. First to do this step. So we will get 4 sine square theta upon 1 plus 2 cos theta का whole square is equal to 3 by 4. Right, this is clear. So next we will get cross multiplying 16 sine square theta is equal to 3, and now I'm opening this bracket, so it is 1 plus 4 cos square theta plus 4 cos theta, and then I will substitute this thing over here. So that will give me my quadratic equation in cos theta, and solve that. I'll get the value of cos theta, and from that I will get theta. So 16 into 1 minus cos square theta on this side is equal to 3 plus 12 cos square theta plus 12 cos theta. Okay. So bring these two terms to this side. So it becomes 16 plus 12. So that's 28 cos square theta, okay, plus 12 cos theta. Okay. And then minus 16 plus 3. So that will give us minus 13 is equal to 0. Okay. So now solve this for cos theta. Solve this for cos theta. This is an equation of this type: ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Where you can see x is cos theta and a is 28, b is 12, and c is minus 13. So use that discriminant method to solve this, and tell me what you are getting for cos theta. Yes, Tej, tell me what. Yes, correct. So you get cos theta as minus 12 plus minus square root of 12 square plus 4 into 28 into 13 SI divided by 2a. 2 into 28. So when you do this calculation, this will further come out to be minus 12 plus minus root of 400 divided by 56. So that is minus 12 plus minus 20 by 56. So 12 minus 12 plus 20 will give you 8, and 8 by 56 will give you 1 by 7. So you get cos theta as 1 by 7, that's one root, or the other root will be minus of 32 by 56. So 32 by 56 will be 4 by 7. Oh, it's 1600 in the my mistake. Yeah. EA40. This will give us a different value. This will give us so 40 minus 12 is 28. 28 by 56 is half. Okay, so this will give us the value of theta as 60 degrees. Okay. And this will give us minus of 52 by 56. That is, we will reject this root, we will take this one. Okay. So rather lengthy calculation, as I told you. This was one tricky question in the entire exercise. So unfortunately, this question, because it is based on values which are given, okay, and it's not forming any right angle triangle or anything like that, we have to solve it by this method only. There's no other possible method. Because the information given to us is in terms of theta, in terms of tan alpha. So there is no other way of doing this question. We have to incorporate this in the formula. So the moment we incorporate this value given in the formula, what happens is we come to this step. There's no way of avoiding this trigonometric equation. If there was an easier way of doing this question, I would have showed. मतलब JEE में ऐसे ही question आते हैं. Why it is this thing, why that value minus 13 by 14 is rejected is because here I think there's some way by which we can understand that this angle has to be acute. So it cannot have a negative value. No, that is not true, beta. Inverse of any angle is not the angle itself. Inverse का मतलब ये है कि the angle becomes the trigonometric function of that. Okay. So if we give an angle as, let's say, sine inverse of something, it means that sine of that angle is x. If we give an angle as tan inverse of something, it means that tan of that angle becomes that value. So that is the meaning of inverse function. Yes, this is the only that about inverse functions in physics. This is the definition inverse trigonometric functions. That's all you need to understand. Okay, people, so this is clear. Yeah, unfortunately, my internet connection is giving some trouble today. So, all right. So before we finish up, we will look at a little bit about the next thing in vectors. I'll just introduce the next concept and we'll understand more about that in the next lecture. So the next part we'll come to in vectors is called the component representation of vectors. Till now, we've been following the method of geometrical representation, which we saw in the first lecture, first or second. So in geometrical representation, we had seen that the vector is represented by drawing an arrow. Now, like that, this is a different method of representing a vector. We will not draw the vector geometrically anymore. Instead, we will write it using an equation. So component representation makes use of coordinate frames. So this method uses a rectangular, or what we call Cartesian axis, right? Uses a rectangular Cartesian system of axes, or you can say coordinate frame. To express a vector. There are two types of representation, as I'm sure: component representation and geometrical representation. So we are coming to the second and final method of representation. Okay. So what we do in component representation is, we first start with the two-dimensional method. In two-dimensional component system, two-dimensional का मतलब क्या? Only xy plane, no z axis. Okay, only two mutually perpendicular axes which you are used to in coordinate geometry, that type of axis. Okay, we define x-axis and y-axis. Then we define something called unit vectors, I cap and j cap. This is a unit vector, that means a vector of magnitude 1 along the x-axis, and this is a unit vector along the y-axis. Yeah, magnitude is 1. So we define a vector of magnitude 1 along the x-axis and a vector of magnitude unity of 1 along the positive y-axis. So magnitude 1, this is called I cap. Magnitude 1, this is called j cap. So in a two-dimensional system, for representing vectors using component algebra, the first thing is we need to understand what I cap and j cap are. Okay? And collectively, these are called the base unit vectors. In our system of coordinates, these two I cap and j cap become the base unit vectors. Now, once we have defined the base unit vectors, now any vector will be defined in terms of these. So any vector will be represented now as an equation like this: some quantity ax into I cap plus some quantity ay into j cap. It will be represented like this, where I cap and j cap, we have already understood what they are. But what about ax and ay? Are scalars. They are scalars and called components of vector E. So in fact, the quantity ax over here, it is called the x component of vector E. Ay is called the y component of vector A. Okay. So just note down this part and I'll explain what this means actually. So this is just like a definition now. So when we represent a vector in component form, this is how it looks. This is vector E represented in component notation. component form. Okay. So let me just take you from the beginning once. We'll come back to this. So component representation of vectors. This is a method where we make use of the Cartesian or rectangular coordinate frame system to express vectors. So in a two-dimensional system, the Cartesian coordinate frame just consists of x-axis and y-axis. So in that two-dimensional system, first thing we do is we define our unit vectors. So what are the unit vectors? They are given the special name I cap and j cap. Now the symbol, along with the symbol I, there is a cap on top of it. So this is read as I cap, and along with the symbol j, there is a cap on top of it. So the cap shows that it's a unit vector. If I had written like this, it would have been a vector I, but the moment we write cap, it means that we're talking about unit vector. So it means the magnitude is 1. Magnitude is unity, okay, and the direction is along the positive x-axis. Similarly, this one has a magnitude of unity, but the direction is along the positive y-axis. So that's the first aspect of the component system, that we define unit vectors according to our coordinate frame. So if it's a two-dimensional coordinate frame, we define two specific unit vectors given the special names I cap and j cap, and they become the unit vectors along the x-axis and the y-axis respectively. Yes, Tej, tell me better, what is your doubt? Pressure is the scalar, beta. Okay. Why pressure is a scalar, we'll understand in detail later, because pressure adds in a way in which like scalar quantities add. Yeah, Rachit, I'll explain. Just give me a moment. Okay. Pressure scalar क्यों होता है? Because it is force per unit area, but it is technically actually the proper definition of it is not force per unit area. It is actually normal force per unit area, or the perpendicular component of force per unit area. And the component of a vector is always a scalar quantity. Okay, that is why it is in fact defined as a scalar quantity, pressure. Okay. So how pressure is defined is that at a given point, if you draw an area, if you draw a surface and you calculate the amount of force acting perpendicular to the surface, on that surface, and you calculate the amount of force which is acting in the direction normal or perpendicular into the surface, and then divide that by the area, that gives you the pressure. So the moment you're talking about the component of force perpendicular to the area, or the component of a force in a particular direction, it becomes a scalar quantity, because the component of a vector is a scalar. Like I've showed you over here that Ex and Ey are the components of the vector E, but on their own, what are Ax and Ay? They are scalar quantities. So that is the point, beta. It does not have a direction. Pressure does not have a direction. Force has a direction, but the pressure does not have a direction. So you can also interpret this way. Just think of it like this, that you know that underwater at a depth of D, you have a pressure of rho gh. You have an excess pressure of rho gh. Now, does that pressure have any direction? No. If you imagine like you placed a like a rectangular tile or a chit of paper underwater, तो उस पे जो force लगेगा because of the pressure, that will be how much? It will be rho gh multiplied by the area. But does the direction of force get affected by the depth? No, no. It gets affected by how you place the piece of paper. If you place the piece of paper horizontally, then the force will be vertical. If you place the piece of paper vertically, then the force will become horizontal. So it becomes independent of the direction. So that is the point. When you are thinking in terms of direction, you are thinking in terms of force. You are not thinking in terms of pressure. Energy is a scalar, Hitanshu. Okay. So coming back here, let us understand what this type of equation means. Okay, first you write down, this is like a definition, that कोई भी वेक्टर को हम ऐसे लिखते हैं, some quantity into I cap plus some quantity into j cap, where the two quantities ax and ay, they are which type of quantities? They are scalar quantities, and they are given the special name x component of the vector a and y component of the vector e. So now let's take an example and we'll understand what this means. Okay. And immediately you'll understand how this component system works out. Okay. So let me just, so are you clear up to this part, all of you? Okay. So now let's just take an easy example and understand this. So if we have a force vector, which is, let's say, 20 I cap plus 15 j cap in newtons. Okay. So first thing is, we want to show, or we just want to say, what is the x component, let's say fx, and similarly, what is the y component, how much is the y component fy. That's the first thing we want to do. And secondly, we want to show the force as a vector arrow in the xy plane. That means we want to convert this from, this is given to us in component form, and we want to convert it to which form now? We want to draw a vector arrow. That means we want to convert it to geometrical form. And from that, we want to find out the magnitude of this force, how much it is in newtons. Okay. So the moment we work out this question, we'll understand what is the meaning of components. So the idea is very simple. Components का definition क्या होता है? It is the coefficients of I cap and j cap. So what we understand by the term components, they are the coefficients of I cap and j cap. So for a vector E, the coefficient of I cap is the x component. The coefficient of y cap, j cap, is the y component. So this is what we mean by the term x component. This is what we mean by the term y component. So now if you look at this equation that is given to us, it's given as a force. So the force F similarly will have some x component and some y component. So comparing the two, you can see that Fx is given to us as 20 newtons and Fy is given to us as 15 newtons. So that answers the first part of the question. What are the components of the force along the x-axis and the y-axis? They are respectively Fx and Fy, whose values are 20 Newton and 50 Newton. This component is 20 in newtons. This component is 15 in newtons. Yeah, just a couple of minutes. Diti, I'll just finish, and by 8:15 I'll finish. Just want to introduce this concept. I know you must be exhausted. This is your second lecture back to back, but just a couple of minutes, okay, then you will be able to do some more work in vectors in the week. Yeah. Okay. Now let's come to the next thing. Let's draw this vector in the xy plane. So इसका मतलब क्या होगा? Let's try to understand. Okay. So let me imagine that this is my y-axis and this is my x-axis. Okay. And the force is given to me as, yeah, the answer is in newtons, because it's given to us in newton. It's given 20 I cap plus 15 j cap in newtons. It was given to us. Okay. So now let me ask you, what is the quantity 20 I cap? 20 I cap क्या होगा? I cap is a unit vector. along the x-axis. Okay. Didi, the first answer is the x component is 20 newtons and the y component is 15 newtons. Now you were separately asked that what is the x component and what is the y component. So the answer to that is the x component is 20 newtons and the y component is 15 newtons. Okay. Now see, in this diagram, how will I draw the quantity 20 I cap? So now understand this, I cap is a vector of magnitude unity along this x-axis. So what is 20 I cap? 20 I cap is just a vector of 20 units along the x-axis. So this is what my vector 20 I cap, or in this case fx I cap, where fx is 20 is this vector. It's a vector of magnitude 20 newtons, but its direction is along which direction? The positive x-axis. Now similarly, what is j cap? J cap is a vector of magnitude 1 along the y-axis. I have drawn it approximately, but it will look like an arrow like this. So what will be 15 j cap? 15 j cap will be a vector of magnitude 15 units, but along the positive y-axis. So this will be the vector 15 j cap, okay, or what we are calling fy j cap. It will be of magnitude 15 newtons, but this. Okay. So now see what is the vector f. It is the sum of these two. Na? ये vector और ये vector का sum है. So in this diagram, where is the vector f lying? The vector f is this. This is becoming the vector f. So this f is the sum of 20 units along the x-axis plus 15 units along the y-axis. This is the meaning of components. So you can see the magnitude of that force. It is just like a hypotenuse. It will be square root of the x component square plus the y component square. So in this case, it is square root of 20 square plus 15 square, which you know is 25 newtons. Okay. So this is the second part of the question. I have drawn the vector in this, and third part, I found out its magnitude. So what we have said about this force, we can now generalize about any vector. And not only this, one more thing we can find out here is the angle. Angle भी हम निकाल सकते हैं ना. ये angle अगर theta है, we can see that also tan theta is basically what? This side upon this side. So it is nothing but fy by fx. So that is giving us information about direction. And this is the magnitude. So this is how we get information about direction and magnitude of a vector when we know its equation in component form. अगर मुझे component form में पता है कि it is 20 I cap plus 15 j cap, then I can see over here, in this particular case, this will become 20 by 15, so that is 4 by 3. So you can see that theta will be 53 degrees. So I have 53 degrees with respect to x-axis. That is the direction of the vector, and 25 newtons, that is the magnitude of the vector. So Kunal, if you want to make an exact diagram, yes, you will have to use graph paper. But the thing is that in our analysis, we don't make exact diagrams. We use the diagram just for understanding. The calculation is always done using formulae. So you don't have to use graph paper. You don't have to use a scale and divider and all that. You can just do an approximate diagram just to understand the geometry. The actual calculation is done by formula, so you don't need to use graph paper. Okay. So just to conclude now, what we have seen in this example, we can generalize about any vector now. So we can see that for any vector which has components ax and ay, the magnitude of the vector by definition will become what? It will become square root of ax square plus ay square. And the angle with respect to the x-axis by definition will become what? It will become tan inverse of ey by ax, where the corresponding diagonal diagram to understand this is just like we had drawn for that particular force vector. Now we can generalize for any arbitrary vector E. X. Okay. Now if the vector E is like this, if the arrow of the vector E is looking like this, this is the vector and this angle is theta, then in this diagram now you can see that you can make it a right angle triangle where the base is represented by a vector which is EXI cap and the perpendicular is represented by a vector which is EYJ cap. So in terms of vector algebra, this vector is EYJ cap and this vector is EXI cap. And that's why you can see that the vector E is the sum of these two. You can see that in the diagram. And just in terms of geometry, the hypotenuse of this triangle is the magnitude of the vector E. The perpendicular of the triangle is EY and the base of the triangle is EX. So you can see that Pythagoras theorem is also shown this and trigonometry is shown this. In subjective paper also you don't have to make exact diagram. Like in your board paper also, you will not be asked to make an exact diagram because the thing is ना आपको calculation diagram से नहीं करना है, आपको calculation formula से करना है. Diagram is only for the purpose of representation. Alright, so you don't have to use graph paper and all that. Okay, and you don't have to make a calculated exact diagram. The diagram is just an approximate one to give you an idea about the geometry. Okay, so this is where we'll conclude today. So this is the first thing we've learned about component algebra. Yes, I will send the notes and the recording of the lecture on the group. Okay. And I've sent the previous lectures notes and this thing also. If anybody requires the notes and recording of the first two lectures also, let me know, I'll send it. Okay. I sent for the third lecture and today I'll send for the fourth lecture. Yes, I will send you another worksheet for homework better. Every lecture I will send you a worksheet. Approximately every lecture we will have one worksheet at least. Okay. So good night people, that's it for today. Thanks.